Hello guys, welcome back to our anime explainer. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Swallowed Star 2 origin continent based on novel. So let's start. Luo Feng looked at the yellow feather inside the jade box, feeling its incredibly sharp edges and the fluctuations of the void. Emperor Chu Yuan smiled from the side. This is the golden feather divine bird under the command of Sky Capital King, naturally born in the primal chaos layer. It was very young when it was born, possessing only the strength of the middle layer of the primal chaos realm. Over time, after the Sky Capital King meticulously nurtured it with various rare treasures, it grew into its most perfect form, already comparable to the pinnacle of the primal chaos realm. Luo Feng was amazed, grown to its most perfect form. The primal chaos layer creatures he had captured himself, such as the silverlight creatures, were either formed by merging 100 silver droplets, or even 1,000. These were all very young. According to his own transformation method, 180 billion droplets were the limit for merging silverlight creatures. This golden feather divine bird, though born with primal chaos realm strength, still had room for growth. I conducted a trade with Refining Jade City Lord, the daughter of the Sky Capital King, to obtain this feather of the golden feather divine bird, said Emperor Chu Yuan. Since it was willingly exchanged, this feather will not self-destruct. Luo Feng expressed his gratitude. Brother Chu Yuan, this is a great help to me, thank you. Whether it's cultivators, exotic beasts, or other sentient beings from the primal chaos layer with complete consciousness, wanting to study their body materials. There are only two methods. 1. Destroy their consciousness and naturally you can study their corpses. 2. If the subject is alive, they must be willing. Otherwise, with just a thought, their blood, feathers will self-destruct and disperse. The more powerful the life form, the less likely they are to let other powerful beings study their body materials. Ha ha, why should we be so formal with each other? Emperor Chu Yuan smiled lightly. I'm in my protection period for the first 30 eras of the primal chaos realm, during which both of us can cultivate safely. But once the protection period is over, I might also need your help. Anything you need help with, just say the word, Luo Feng said. During the protection period, there's nothing much you need to help with, just focus on your cultivation. Emperor Chu Yuan laughed heartily. I have other matters to attend to, so I'll take my leave first. Luo Feng promptly escorted Emperor Chu Yuan to the entrance of his cave mansion. Once Emperor Chu Yuan had left, Luo Feng immediately went into seclusion again. Emperor Chu Yuan and the conflicts with the other two first-rank marquises were unknown to Luo Feng. On one hand, since arriving in Chu capital, Luo Feng hadn't made many friends. The waters of Chu capital were too deep. The 7 first-rank marquises were already the toughest competitors, not to mention the direct disciples of the emperor and the disciples of other godly kings. The factions were overwhelmingly complex. In the phase where his strength was rapidly increasing, Luo Feng preferred to retreat for cultivation. He was well aware that once his strength was sufficiently strong, the so-called complex situation would quickly become clear. On the other hand, the core of Emperor Chu's lineage's management of numerous affairs was these 7 first-rank marquises. Their conflicts were something the whole of Chu capital dared not discuss. Those who witnessed the conflict kept their silence out of fear. Because angering a first-rank marquis could result not only in death, but could potentially bring disaster to one's family and power base behind them. Moreover, Emperor Chu Yuan himself wanted to keep these details confidential, not wanting them to affect Luo Feng. He naturally hoped that guest official Luo he would focus solely on his cultivation, the stronger the better. Marquis Chu Ji and Marquis Chu Yuan are both at the pinnacle of the primal chaos realm. Marquis Chu Ji has 2 guest elders, Marquis Chu Yuan has 1. Between their camps, there are 5 individuals at the pinnacle tier of the primal chaos realm. Emperor Chu Yuan was well aware of their strength, plus some others in the primal chaos realm who follow these 2. The 2 marquises have allied themselves, making their side the most powerful. Although Brother Luo he is also at the pinnacle of the primal chaos realm, he is ultimately alone, against their 5. Moreover, Marquis Chu Yuan, carrying the bloodlines of 2 ancient imperial clans, and is heavily nurtured by the old ancestors, is among us 7 first-rank marquises, the most likely to achieve transcendence of the primal chaos realm, Emperor Chu Yuan had to admit this point. Among the 7 first-rank marquises, Marquis Chu Yuan is the most reckless and aggressive one, but he is also the most talented and powerful. At the pinnacle tier of the primal chaos realm, without a significant gap in strength, it's very hard to completely kill an opponent. However, there are still levels of strength, just like how Luo Feng can suppress Marquis Liu Yin. Marquis Chu Yuan has never encountered an opponent in the pinnacle tier of the primal chaos realm. Even the godly emperor ancestor highly appreciates his talents. Now, my strength has reached the top of the primal chaos realm, Emperor Chu Yuan silently said. By the end of the protection period, my strength must advance further. Even if I haven't reached the pinnacle of the primal chaos realm, I must make it so that Marquis Chu Yuan can't touch me. Emperor Chu Yuan also had ambitions. In his youth, he chose the path of unlimited godly bodies. Naturally, he aspired to reach the godly king tier, forcing me to concede. Relinquish many resources. Without resources, how can I grow stronger? Emperor Chu Yu's eyes flashed coldly. Asterisk 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 asterisk. Within Luo Feng's cave mansion, in the quiet room of seclusion, within a space inside the Star Tower, Luo Feng, who was uninvolved in the various powers of Chu capital, and made no friends, focused solely on cultivation. This feather. Luo Feng looked at the yellow feather in front of him, pinching it lightly, pulling at it, exceptionally tough, and the edges are like blades. With a thought, the yellow feather flew out, hovering in midair. Luo Feng stretched out a finger, the tip barely visible with sharpness. Whoosh! With a gentle wave of his hand, he sliced off a small tuft of down at the edge of the feather. Luo Feng even felt a bit of resistance. In close combat, I am far more formidable than using the galaxy transformation method, yet cutting through the small down still posed some resistance, Luo Feng silently remarked, then gripped that tiny tuft of down and suddenly exerted force. The terrifying power that transcended the physical realm and reached the zenith of the primal chaos realm burst forth, completely shattering the tiny filament of fur into the most fundamental particles. What is this? A tiny filament of fur, once shattered, turned into tens of thousands of particles. Are these particles as well? Luo Feng observed with slight confusion, noticing some law-secret patterns on the surface of the particles. At first glance, they resembled the particles from other transformation methods like the galaxy transformation method and the black abyss transformation method, but the life spirituality feels extremely strong. It's thousands, even millions of times stronger than the life spirituality of my 5 transformation methods, representing a qualitative change. Why do these particles possess such strong life spirituality? Luo Feng lightly waved his hand and split a particle open. As the particle split, Luo Feng instantly saw clearly. This particle contained the law-secret patterns of primal chaos, and inside it even encapsulated 2 particles that were merging with each other. One larger particle encompassing 2 smaller ones. Are the 2 smaller particles partially merged? Luo Feng observed and continued to split the even smaller 2 particles. As they split, they revealed many law-secret patterns, while also completely disintegrating. Fusion of yin-yang. The Trinity. At that moment, Luo Feng understood the basic life structure of this mightiest primal chaos layer creature, and also why this particle could harbor such powerful life spirituality. A form embodying yin-yang fusion contains endless mysteries, divided into pure yin, pure yang, and the fusion part of yin and yang. And the Trinity further complicates the complexity. Luo Feng cut open another particle to closely observe. Black and white can be considered yin-yang, life and death can be considered yin-yang, and matter and energy can also be regarded as a type of yin-yang. Yin and yang is a state. Particles from the same origin display different states and yet perfectly merge. Regarding the fusion of yin and yang, it's documented in the Body of Life chapter of the first calamity in 8 Tribulations Life Form. Luo Feng used this inheritance to understand the beginning of unity, fusion of yin-yang, the Trinity, 10 directions world. 8 Tribulations Life Form, this inheritance describes various forms of the body of life. The Trinity is too complex demanding higher requirements of life spirituality and the body of life. First, try the simpler form of yin-yang. After understanding the inheritance, Luo Feng began to refine his transformation methods. Whoosh! Divine power transformed into two droplets joined together. This combination, however, appeared quite ugly and contained only average life spirituality. The yin-yang form is about complementing each other. Luo Feng tried again, after dispersing the previous attempt. Time passed. After numerous attempts, each time learning from the lessons and studying the inheritance further, he also cut open the golden feather divine bird's particles to observe carefully. The golden feather divine bird under the command of Heavenly King could sense its body's material being cut, but as the transaction was legitimate, it could only let everything happen without daring to actively obliterate that one feather. Whoosh! Not knowing how many times he had tried, this time Luo Feng waved his hand, and two droplets of silver light combined, yet with a sense of beauty of life, the life spirituality being 10 times stronger than before. This is the feeling. Luo Feng revealed a surprised expression, immediately changing forms repeatedly. A single transformation produced millions, tens of millions, hundreds of millions of droplets. Luo Feng's soul was mighty now, his spiritual will even stronger, and his transformation methods were executed faster and faster. Soon, 180 billion droplets of silver light formed, each pair combining. Buzz! A contained silver light galactic river formed, and while it looked ordinary, Luo Feng could feel that his ability to merge his consciousness was much stronger, and its might had increased several times. Having been in Chu capital for so long, my transformation methods have finally undergone a qualitative change. Luo Feng showed pleasure. Now, my spiritual will has reached the threshold of the second realm of Godly King, and I can also manipulate more galaxy blade light. The overall might of this galaxy blade light compared to when I was in Huyang City should have increased tenfold. Luo Feng was quite happy. Sir the Novelia.net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Like the spiritual willed in the standard layers of primal chaos realm, it gradually and slowly elevated, only experiencing a qualitative change from the bottleneck of the primal chaos realm to the Godly King tier. The spiritual will of a Godly King also progresses gradually, from the first realm to the third realm, all through slow accumulation. This kind of accumulation is very difficult, and even ancient Godly Kings struggle to take even one step further over endless years. My spiritual will being able to progress from the first realm of Godly King to the threshold of the second realm, the key factor is the transformation of my life stage. Luo Feng knew this. When he had been an eternal true God, he already possessed the will of a Godly King. Upon becoming a being of the primal chaos realm, and after the growth of his perfect divine body, his soul became even stronger, naturally resulting in a slight uplift in his spiritual will. Unless I elevate my life stage and reach the Godly King tier, which could aid my spiritual will, otherwise I will need to slowly accumulate. Luo Feng was well aware how gradual the normal progression and enhancement was. His spiritual will had been at the pinnacle will of the primal chaos realm in his true God phase. As an eternal true God, by nurturing his godly body and utilizing the calamity beast diagram, he broke through to the will of a Godly King. In the primal chaos realm, he advanced a small step, reaching the threshold of the second realm of Godly King. As time flowed gently by, Emperor Chu Yuan of Emperor Chu's lineage appeared to be much more low-key during the distribution of tasks among the 7 first-rank marquises. And in the blink of an eye, half a century had passed. Finally, it's my turn to have priority again. Emperor Chu Yuan, with the help of the first-rank Marquis command, had discovered a newly emerged Emperor-level task. Even among the first-rank marquises, Emperor-level tasks were rare, and the 7 had to choose in sequence. Guardian of the Ghostfire World. Emperor Chu Yuan gazed at the task, his eyes ablaze with excitement. This task might even be more valuable than the Northern Sea Beast Forest. My priority rights. With a cold smile, Emperor Chu Yuan did not hesitate to claim the task for himself. After being taught a lesson last time, he had kept a low profile for half a century. Now, at this crucial moment, he made his move again. As he seized the task, the other 6 first-rank marquises were also informed simultaneously. Interesting. It seems we've underestimated this Chu Yu. He's quite bold. He dares to snatch it directly. He's asking for death. No hurry, Marquis Chu Yuan will surely be the first to act. The other first-rank marquises each had their own thoughts. Indeed, upon realizing that Emperor Chu Yu had dared to use his priority rights to claim the emperor-level task, Marquis Chu Yuan was immediately consumed by nameless rage that scorched his entire body, and even his soul. A newly advanced being of primal chaos realm, with weak strength, should just bear it. How dare he compete with me? Marquis Chu Yuan was furious. In his view, only those at the pinnacle of primal chaos realm had the qualification for a fair competition. A newly advanced being from the primal chaos realm, even with the aid of unlimited godly bodies and the resources of a first-rank marquis for cultivation, still had a huge gap in strength, and was not qualified to compete with them. Emperor Chu Yu. Marquis Chu Yuan contacted Emperor Chu Yu, transmitting his voice directly. You've got some nerve to snatch an emperor-level task. What? Am I, a first-rank marquis, not qualified to seize an emperor-level task? Emperor Chu Yu responded indifferently. Transmitting his voice across the vast distance, he was not afraid of that madman. It seems the lesson from last time didn't work on you, Marquis Chu Yuan's voice transmitted with murderous intent. I hear you, Marquis Chu Yuan, are very powerful. Among the 7 first-rank marquises, you are the strongest. Even fighting many at the pinnacle of primal chaos realm without meeting an adversary. Emperor Chu Yu said with interest, I am currently inside my mansion. If you have the guts, kill your way here. Marquis Chu Yuan paused. Storm into the first-rank marquis mansion. Even a guest elder's cave mansion could harness a trace of the power of Chu capital city, something that even beings who had transcended the primal chaos realm feared immensely. And a first-rank marquis mansion could harness even more of the city's power. Even some ancient godly kings wouldn't dare to charge in recklessly. You're just going to hide in your mansion? Marquis Chu Yuan said. You guessed right. I have no mandatory tasks before the protection period. So during the protection period, I will stay inside the Marquis mansion. Emperor Chu Yu responded leisurely. I won't step out of the mansion. What can you do to me? Marquis Chu Yuan was infuriated. I will not yield on any task, Emperor Chu Yu said coldly. You and I are both first-rank marquises. Think you can suppress me? Delusional. Very well, that's just great. Marquis Chu Yuan's face twisted. Emperor Chu Yu immediately cut off the communication, unwilling to deal with that madman any longer. Inside his own Marquis mansion, Emperor Chu Yu was completely fearless. After cutting off the transmission, Emperor Chu Yu thought for a moment, then immediately contacted Luo Feng, guest official Luo He. I have some conflicts with the other first-rank marquises. It's best if your disciples don't go outside for the time being. Oh? Luo Feng, who was in seclusion, received the message. Don't worry, I will instruct them. Luo Feng had entrusted Morosa, Moyu Qingyang, and primordial ancestor with instructions. Marquis Chu Yuan, driven to fury, caused thunder to flicker as he instantly tore apart the pavilion building he was in, and even 2 maids outside the pavilion were caught in the aftermath. The maids were turned to ash in an instant amidst their terror and despair. Damn it, Marquis Chu Yuan's eyes were completely filled with lightning. Just then, a figure appeared high in the sky, none other than Marquis Chu Ji. Chu Yuan. Marquis Chu Ji rebuked, striking at the soul, restoring some clarity to Marquis Chu Yuan's eyes, who then looked up to see Marquis Chu Ji descending. Big brother, Marquis Chu Yuan gritted his teeth. This Emperor Chu Yu did it on purpose. He is deliberately provoking me. Yes, he is deliberately provoking you, making you go mad again, so that you break the laws set down by our primordial ancestor. Then, he can imprison you in the ghost fire world for 10,000 years, Marquis Chu Ji scolded. Marquis Chu Yuan paused, looking at the only brother he trusted. You've come this far, become a first-rank marquis, after enduring many hardships, Marquis Chu Ji said. you have exceptional talent, and you even have hope to transcend the primal chaos realm. At this time, don't fall for the other's scheme. If you go mad and act recklessly, it will only amuse Emperor Chu Yu. Marquis Chu Yuan nodded. In all matters, pay attention to the laws. As long as you don't break the prohibitions, that's all that matters. Marquis Chu Ji was also helpless. This brother of his still had some sense left, but as he cultivated the primordial secret method inheritance, his temperament became increasingly uncontrollable. Sir the Novelier, .ne*t website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Many of the Thunder Ancient Country's imperial clan members have uncontrollable tempers, bursting out at times to confront even godly kings. My brother has certainly inherited some of the traits of the Thunder Ancient Country's imperial clan, Marquis Chu Ji thought to himself. Having inherited the bloodlines of two great imperial clans, and after becoming a being of primal chaos realm, primordial ancestor personally guided Marquis Chu Yuan in his cultivation, causing his strength to soar. Summon a few guest elders to come over, we'll discuss and find a solution, Marquis Chu Ji said. All right, Marquis Chu Yuan nodded, reining in his temperament. A moment passed. Marquis Chu Ji, Marquis Chu Yuan, and the three guest elders gathered. These five pinnacle of primal chaos realm existences discussed the matter, which was also a way for Marquis Chu Yuan to vent his anger. Given Marquis Chu Yuan's temper, failing to vent his anger would only make him grow more irate. Emperor Chu Yu said that during the protection period, he would stay within the Marquis mansion and not take half a step outside, said Marquis Chu Yuan, his ugly face full of thick black hair bristling with fury. I really wish I could smash him into a pulp. Fine, if he won't step out. I refuse to believe his wife and children won't. To act against the close relatives of a first-rank Marquis is equivalent to taking action against the Marquis himself, added Marquis Chu Ji from the side. I'm not going to kill them, just rough them up a bit, Marquis Chu Yuan, his body emitting black qi, insisted, as long as they don't die, it's merely a minor punishment. Taking action against relatives is crossing the line, Marquis Chu Ji shook his head. This isn't allowed, that isn't allowed, then what can we do? Marquis Chu Yuan said angrily. The man in blue robes on the side chuckled, Marquis Chu Yuan needn't hurry. The reason Emperor Chu Yu is unyielding is because he wants to compete for resources. So we should strike at what he cares about the most. Isn't his biggest help at the moment that guest official Luo He? There are no laws against disciplining a guest official, and not even death would be investigated. In the Flame-Wind Ancient Country, there were many guest officials, and strife among them was common. The Ancient Country couldn't possibly manage it all. Right. The most powerful person beside him is that Luo He, nodded Marquis Chu Yuan, but Luo He is at the pinnacle of primal chaos realm level, certainly practicing several life-saving secret techniques, making it too difficult to kill him outright. He wasn't confident either. While we may not be able to kill him outright, as long as we destroy him once and take away the treasures he carries, it will certainly be a huge blow to him, the man in blue robes said. A strong person like him would carry the treasures he has accumulated over the long years with him. Die once, lose all his treasures, and even if he could survive by using life-saving techniques, the pain would be immense, said an old woman at his side. With our means, we might not be able to kill him outright, but taking his treasures will not be difficult, said an old man whose left arm was encircled by golden rings leisurely. Good. Marquis Chu Yuan nodded, he's hiding himself, so we'll act against his guest official. Let's see if this guest official Luo He will dare to continue helping Emperor Chu Yu. Luo Feng did indeed entrust Morosa, Moyu Qingyang, and the primordial ancestor, so even if they went out, they were just divine power incarnations taking a stroll. In Chu capital, 1,000-star tower. I was once suppressed by the primordial cosmos for most of a reincarnation era, intently perceiving the myriad states of beings and the movement of all things. The primordial ancestor sat in a small building within the 1,000-star tower, drinking as he observed the lives of the beings outside, yet the myriad states and rules of movement of the beings in the land of origin are much more mysterious. After obtaining a wealth of inheritance from the Heart Shadow sect, the primordial ancestor started integrating many experiences of his predecessors, and began to create a Dharma at the eternal level for the virtual universe. As the Dharma started to take shape, the primordial ancestor's strength improved significantly. Sometimes, what's real is also an illusion, and an illusion can also be reality, the primordial ancestor smiled. With my Dharma in its initial success, I can form an illusionary avatar, which possesses a third of my true body's strength, the primordial ancestor said contentedly. I hear that even among beings of primal chaos realm, there are few who have the method of creating an avatar. Suddenly, a ripple descended. The primordial ancestor saw a figure in a blue robe standing to the side, its intangible might already completely binding the primordial ancestor. At this moment, the primordial ancestor felt as though the blue-robed figure was like an endless heaven and earth, leaving no room for resistance, with the gap between them being unimaginably huge. Are you the primordial? The blue-robed figure looked at him. Indeed, this was an eternal true God-level physical body, not some divine power incarnation. May I know what the great saint desires? The primordial ancestor rose to pay respects. I hear that the guest official Luo he went to great lengths for you, bringing you to Chu capital, said the blue-robed figure leisurely. Send a message to Luo he promptly, tell him, if he doesn't come, you're as good as dead. The primordial ancestor was slightly taken aback. Yes, I will send the message immediately. The primordial ancestor still kept a very low profile. Inside Luo Feng's cave dwelling, Luo Feng was summoned from his secluded cultivation. Primordial ancestor, is there an urgent matter? Luo Feng looked at the primordial ancestor. Luo Feng, my illusionary avatar, in the city's 1,000-star tower encountered the guest official Great Saint Qianyu of Marquis Chu Yuan. He wants you to go there immediately, otherwise he will kill me, said the primordial ancestor, but don't worry, he only captured my illusionary avatar. Illusionary avatar? Great Saint Qianyu couldn't recognize it. Luo Feng was surprised. He hadn't even cultivated an avatar himself yet. The inheritances from the Heart Shadow sect didn't have any secret technique for avatars. Could the primordial ancestor possibly have managed to cultivate an illusionary avatar? The illusionary avatar is also a real physical body, just weaker than my main self, the primordial ancestor explained. Luo Feng nodded slightly. If the primordial ancestor was captured, he would have been somewhat troubled. Now? Luo Feng was only filled with burning fury. They had started targeting people close to him. Luo Feng's killing intent grew even more intense. You must be careful. If they ask you to go there may be an ambush waiting, the primordial ancestor cautioned. Don't worry. Luo Feng nodded, then stepped forward and disappeared into the void. This video will end here.